Hey everybody, this is 407 and Beyond, or Disney Co in the Know, and tonight we are talking about our favorite Star Wars trilogies. This topic came up because we've all been watching a lot of Disney Plus lately, watching different series and rewatching movies. And so tonight I am joined by none other than Jacob Beal
Hello.
and Hannah Beal.
Hey, y'all.
And I am Bruce Beal. A lot of Beals in the house tonight, talking Star Wars. But you'll recognize Jake and Hannah from 407 and Beyond the blog and Disney Co in the Know Facebook group. They're always writing articles and doing movie reviews and stuff like that. So you might recognize them there. And tonight we're just going to get on here, have ourselves a cup of tea, and talk about our favorite Star Wars trilogy series. So yeah, that's it. Let's just get started. So I don't know, but let's just start at the beginning and let's talk about the prequel trilogy, starting with the Phantom Menace. Is that anybody in this chat's favorite Star Wars trilogy? The prequels?
I mean, I know it might not be the most popular opinion among Star Wars fans, but I'd say it's probably mine.
Is your favorite? Episodes
Yeah, I
1, 2,
like
and
the
3?
prequels. Yeah, but I mean, it's mostly nostalgia. Like, if I'm being honest,
Okay.
I was like 5 years old when Phantom Menace came out. I've watched
Okay.
it probably 100 times. I know every line, so it's just like it's just a part of my childhood and growing up and stuff.
Yeah.
So
So maybe it's the
I
fact
like.
that it came out in movies and you remember it in the theater.
I don't know if I actually remember watching Phantom Menace in the theater. I definitely remember watching Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, but
Okay.
I think it's almost the fact that it's so early for me that I can't remember seeing it in the theater. Like, it's literally been around pretty much all of my memory. And of course, I saw, uh, I watched the original trilogy and stuff at the same time. Like, it's not like I waited or anything to watch that. So I have the memories of that too. But as a kid, the prequels are my favorites. That's what I associate with
And the
with
prequels are
growing
still
up
your
and getting into
favorite
Star Wars.
as of today.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
that's probably controversial for a lot of people, but
Can
no,
I
I
ask
just
you,
yeah,
besides the nostalgia of it, what makes you like it so much?
that's what I was gonna get into. But I really I like the universe of Star Wars as it's portrayed in the prequels a little bit better than it is in the original trilogy. I
Okay.
like the setting of the Galactic Republic, like at its peak, kind of with the Jedi Order in full force and stuff like that. I like the world building of it. Like, we get to see a lot of different planets and characters. I know a lot of people don't like the politics and
Yeah.
all the Senate procedures and stuff, but I feel like it adds a lot of depth to the universe
Yeah.
that we don't always get, and so I just think that's what I don't know. It's kind of what makes Star Wars to me. Is I think a lot of that Old Republic era, the Jedi. I like seeing not just Obi-Wan and Anakin, but all members of the Jedi Council and like Qui-Gon and a lot of stuff like that. And,
Right. So let me ask Hannah real quick. Just yes or no. Is the prequel trilogy your favorite trilogy?
It is not my
It
favorite.
is not. Okay, so now let me go back to Jacob. And I'll say it is not my favorite either. So, but
Understandable.
let me ask Jacob, because it's oddly not my favorite, and I say that because I really like backstories, and I really like to know the why and the how of how we've gotten to a story. And so nothing bothers me more about a movie where action happens. People may die in heroic acts or whatever, but if we aren't connected to that character, then to me, it doesn't matter. And so I always want to know, like, how we got to this point, how the evil, antagonist in the story has risen to a power stature, who our hero is. And so I really love the prequel trilogy, which, again, to Jake's point, may be against might be against the majority opinion.
Common opinion.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say it's not against the common. I also love the prequels. They're just not my favorite, but I still
True.
love them.
okay, that's okay. That and that makes sense. So there is a distinction. I just
So
really like how we learn how Anakin becomes Darth Vader, and that is to me is I don't want to say the best it's one of the better storylines to me in the entire Star Wars universe.
okay, so can I ask then? Like you
Yes,
said, you like backstories and stuff.
yes.
So what do you think is keeping the prequel trilogy from being your favorite? Like,
Mm.
what do you think personally? I know a lot of people are gonna have a lot of different opinions on this, but what do you think holds it back as a
As
as a
being,
trilogy?
yeah, that makes sense.
Because I know there's gonna be a lot of things for everyone.
I I have 3 words for you. Jar Jar Binks. No, no. I'm teasing.
Those are the big 3 words right there. I don't know if I can defend that.
So why, even though how much I love the backstory, why is it not my favorite trilogy? I think it's because as much as I love learning the hows and the whys of how we get to the original trilogy, to me, there is something special about Luke going against Darth that I think the amount of this isn't a word, the amount of specialness or the amount of just like how sacred to me that storyline is of Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. And to me, Darth Vader is like the ultimate villain, even though he's not the coolest. Like Darth Maul has a double-edged lightsaber. We have different Sith that maybe are cooler, but there's something about Darth Vader that is like ultimate. And there's something about Luke Skywalker that's ultimate. And so when those two clash and then you find out that they're father and son, spoiler alert, 45 years later or however, to me, it's just that alone that makes it, spoiler, my favorite trilogy. But
No,
so that's,
I think you make an excellent point. Like Luke is the classic hero, like that
yeah,
archetype of the hero and everything, and Darth Vader is the classic villain. Like that's one of my favorite things about the original trilogy is how it's just like just that classic story of good versus evil
yeah,
in a
it's,
nutshell.
That also is one of the reasons that it's my favorite too, Bruce, is that like clash between the two of them and the fact that, he is Luke's father and like the good and the evil, and then the redemption of Vader too at the end is
yeah,
one of the things that I really like. And
that's true. That's
when you
true.
get to see him, he's been this bad evil character the whole time, and then you find out that he's Luke's father, and it adds all of this tension. And then they he picks his family over the dark side, and that was one of the things I really loved about it.
Yeah. And yeah, even though I wasn't around when the movie's released, there is a little bit of nostalgia that was the originals. And so you can like definitely bypass all of the, what are considered today, the graphics or, the explosions aren't as cool, but
Well,
like
they
you
still
still
hold up
appreciate it.
remarkably well, in
Yeah,
my opinion. I
exactly.
mean, they're
Exactly.
timeless in a way.
Exactly.
And I think that that's one of the things that makes it so impressive too, is like thinking, that movie's 43 years old now, 42, 43, something
Which
like that.
one? The original?
The original.
It came out in '77, so yeah.
So it'll be 43 this year. I like the fact that the graphics, while not amazing by today's standards, are still good. When
Right.
you think about them in the standards of 1977,
Yeah.
like that movie was cutting edge. And
Oh,
I think
it,
that's
it
one of the things
changed
that
the
makes
game.
it so important and so special. And one of the reasons that it's my favorite is because it shapes not only all of the Star Wars movies to come, because if the first one didn't happen, the first trilogy, none of the rest would have, but it shapes just movies in general as well.
Yeah. So let's go back to the prequels real quick. Jake, of the prequels, what is your favorite of the first 3 episodes?
Again, I might catch a lot of heat for this because I know.
Because you're picking Phantom Menace.
Yeah, but no, I'm gonna say I know most people, and the prequels are more. They have a warmer reception now than I feel like they did in years past.
Yeah.
That being said, I think a lot of people like Revenge of the Sith the best, and I mean, obviously, like I love it. It's great and
Yeah.
everything. It's the climax of that whole story leading up to Anakin's fall into Darth Vader, and you get all the great fights and stuff in it. But again, it is. I would have to go with Phantom Menace, and
Okay.
maybe this isn't the best answer. But again, it's so much of it is nostalgia for me. I guess maybe the best I can do is address some of the criticisms that people have against it and why I'm able to look past them.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I feel like there is a solid movie there underneath a lot of the things that people don't like. I mean, you brought up Jar Jar, and obviously that's as close to indefensible as we're gonna get, I think.
It's a timeless
But
joke. You can always add Jar Jar to any. Yeah.
you can always add fart jokes and
Yeah.
slapstick and stuff like that. But one thing, this might be getting a little off topic, but the one thing that I kind of think about with Jar Jar sometimes, at least when you sit down and try and think, like, what was George Lucas thinking with this? There was something that went around the internet a few years ago. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Someone had a theory that originally Jar Jar was going to be one of the villains.
Yes.
So you guys have heard about this, like
Oh,
the
yeah.
Darth Jar Jar theory. Yeah. So if anyone hasn't like heard of it, like Google Darth Jar Jar theory, and it gives us a really convincing argument that that Jar Jar may have been planned as one of the like grand villains of the prequel trilogy. And maybe there's nothing to it. Maybe it's just wild Star Wars fans coming up with whatever they'll think of. But I think there's a little bit of merit to it, and it makes me wonder, like, if that was the plan and George Lucas abandoned it after the what should have been predictably terrible response Jar Jar got from
Right.
from fans. Like, if you needed that second half of his story, but everyone just saw him in the Phantom Menace and terrible reaction, maybe he scrapped the whole Darth Jar Jar thing. But it's fun to think about, and if you look at it from that perspective, I feel like maybe it makes him a little more bearable. So that's kind of my input on Jar Jar. Other than that, I don't really have anything to go there. But I know another thing that Phantom Menace especially and the prequel trilogy as a whole gets slammed for a lot is the dialogue.
Yeah.
Like when you can make Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman look like bad actors, like obviously the dialogue isn't very good.
Which that's a common trend throughout all the movies almost.
Oh yeah, that's the thing though. That's what I'm gonna kind of get at here a little bit is even in the original trilogy, it's not the original trilogy got panned for its dialogue a lot, and maybe maybe people aren't gonna agree with me on this, but I really think it was intentional. Like that kind of cardboard style of talking and
Stiff.
bland dialogue and stiff. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. That kind of style, I think, is really what George Lucas was going for, because he wants it. He has a certain thing in mind, I think, with Star Wars that that maybe a lot of people don't realize what he's going for, but he wants it to be cheesy. I feel like, and people see cheesy stuff and go, "Oh, that's bad. It's cheesy."
Yeah.
But for
so you're
me,
saying
he's
not taking it like he's not taking himself or the story too seriously.
Yeah, I think he's kind of playing a different game than everyone else. Like he's not trying to make an Oscar-winning masterpiece or something. Like he wants to evoke images of like old space serials like Flash Gordon and stuff like that, where it's overly dramatic and overly not realistic.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not describing this very well.
No,
But,
I see what you're saying.
But I really think if you just like almost appreciate the cheesiness, that's probably going to sound really stupid. But I really think if you look at it from a different perspective and maybe say, like try and look at it as what George Lucas was trying to make. I think you get kind of a different perspective on it, and maybe it's not the best maybe they're not the best movies in the world, but like they're fun.
Yeah, I can appreciate
and the cheesiness is part of the fun. So
yeah,
that's the way I look at it.
That's good. So you're saying your favorite movie is though Phantom Menace?
Yes.
Okay.
Out of, like I said, I do like Revenge of the Sith a lot. It's very good. Attack of the Clones. The more I watch that one, the harder it gets to watch. I'll admit that.
Okay.
That one did not age well.
Every time
I
you
love,
see it, it jumps a step down. At least
yeah.
that's what it's been for me.
Well,
That one,
and
when it came out, that one was my favorite.
Yeah.
And the more I watch it, the more I'm like, oof.
Yeah.
yeah, it's even like the CGI didn't age as well as the other two did, and I know I just spent a whole big monologue defending the dialogue there, but it's rough. even with that perspective I talked about, it can be tough to sit through.
Not just the men,
But I think,
but the women and the children too.
yeah, that and
Yeah, so Anakin Christian, that might be I don't want to the worst.
I'm actually gonna defend Hayden Christensen a little
Oh
bit.
no, okay.
I really no. Okay, I'm not saying he's a great actor or anything. I'm just saying I think he really gets
Flack.
the raw end of the deal for having to act out what George Lucas wanted him to do. I think he did exactly what George Lucas wanted him to do, and people just looked at it and said, "Oh, Hayden Christensen's a terrible actor," and not, "Oh, he's just doing what Lucas wanted."
Because I guess all of the other people, you know, like Ewan McGregor has gone on to do a lot of other movies and has proven himself to be a really good actor. Same with Natalie Portman. She's done tons of stuff, a super wide range, but we haven't really seen Hayden Christensen in a lot of other things besides Star Wars. Do you feel like people like blamed him more than the writing, whereas in the case of the others, they got like more opportunities? Is that why you think?
Well, maybe a little. I'm going to be honest here. I just think Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman are much better actors. Not that
I would
Hayden
agree with that.
Christensen's awful, the worst ever. I just think you had a lot of really good actors around him who managed to deal with that dialogue a little better than he did, and come out of it looking a little better. And they had, I feel like, more of a career before that, so people knew that they were good actors, and Hayden Christensen didn't have that. Now, one interesting thing, I think I'm remembering correctly on this, I believe Leonardo DiCaprio was in, was one of the leading candidates to play Anakin, and got passed over for Hayden Christensen. So sometimes you got to think like, well, if someone like Leonardo DiCaprio had that role, one, it probably wouldn't have been a whole lot better because you still have George Lucas's dialogue to deal with.
Yeah. And I like it. That's not a famous person, like going into it.
Which I think is part of what he was going for. But I feel like he would have come out of that more the same way. Like, obviously, no one's gonna, even if he turned in a stinker of a performance like Hayden Christensen did,
it's
no
Leo.
one's gonna. Yeah, exactly. Like the same way Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman came out of it just fine, like he would too. So I think he's not Hayden Christensen is not a terrible actor. He just he might be a fine one.
He just does
I've
terrible
never really watched any of, oh, no, I've never really watched any of his other stuff, so I can't judge him.
Yeah.
But I'm saying you can't judge him just based on Star Wars, because
that's fair.
He was doing something that isn't ever going to give you a good result by traditional acting standards.
That makes sense.
If he's surrounded by these, you know, people who have had more acting experience and are better actors than him, it's going to make his performance look worse too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So.
Okay, Hannah, in one sentence, what is your favorite prequel trilogy? Or favorite prequel movie? Excuse me.
I would probably actually also say The Phantom Menace is my favorite. I mean, for the nostalgia of it, because we were so young when it came out, and then I loved getting to go back and see it in theaters again when it came out in 3D. I think I was like a sophomore in high school. They were like, we're releasing all of them in 3D, and then they only did The Phantom Menace and didn't do any more.
I don't remember that. That's funny.
So like, I enjoyed that part of it, but I also feel like the more that I don't know, that one still like stays really good for me. I'm a big sucker for a happy ending. So like, even though I know what's coming in Revenge of the Sith, I still am like, oh, because it's not a happy ending. And also I have words about what they do with Padme. And then the more I watch the Clone Attack of the Clones, it just kind of keeps hopping down. So that kind of leaves the
Sure.
Phantom Menace at the top for me.
Okay. All right. Well,
Like, I love them all because they're all Star Wars, and I will love all Star Wars.
can't believe Phantom Menace is getting so much love tonight. But
what about you, Bruce? What's your favorite out of the three?
So mine, I'll keep it short. Mine's Revenge of the Sith, simply because that storyline of making Anakin into Darth Vader. But I am under strict instructions that Elizabeth would like to add her 2 cents that her favorite is Phantom Menace. So we have 3 votes for Phantom Menace.
Yes.
Let's go.
And it's simply for one factor. She thinks Jake Lloyd as Anakin is just like the super fun, cute kid. And that is her favorite. So
hey, he's got one fan, I guess.
Oh, shots fired.
That's funny. All right, let's move on.
I obviously. Okay.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, obviously, he might be in the same boat. It's the same thing I said about Hayden Christensen applies to him. He might not be the best, but
yeah. And then I think Jake Lloyd got into some trouble.
Yes.
As an individual. So, yeah. So, okay.
Anyway. One more thing real quick.
I
know, no, this isn't going to be anyone writing, but I know Steven's not here for this either, but I'm pretty sure his favorite is also Phantom Menace.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Yeah. So
just because I had to get one more vote in there for it.
We're losing followers by the minute.
Hey, all dozen of the Phantom Menace fans out there are going to be all over this video.
Well, 4 of them were mentioned, so
the other 8 then.
I don't know if I want to mention that Disney Caught in the Know and this blog and these videos are sponsored by 407 and Beyond Vacation Company after this one or not. So all right. Anyways, for time's sake, let's go over to the original trilogy, right? The correct answer to the question tonight. So. Hannah, I'll turn it over to you. But I will say, man, I really just cast a shadow on myself. I will say that the original trilogy, as I said before, is my favorite because of the ultimate hero and the ultimate villain. I really like the older Obi-Wan Kenobi. I really like the storyline. And it's the original like Death Star storyline. Before the sequels just straight up redid it. So for that reason, for the Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, that's my favorite. Hannah, you tell us why the originals are your favorite, and what is your favorite movie of the original trilogy?
All right. So I would say you listed off a bunch of great reasons, and I feel like all of those apply. The ultimate hero, the ultimate villain, that battle of good and evil. I love I feel like I never remember a time where I didn't know that Darth Vader was Luke's father, because we started watching them so young. Like, that's just something I feel like I've always known. But I think that reveal was such a cool story point and adds, so much into the story. I also like what they did with Princess Leia. Like, she's a princess, but she can take care of herself. She can shoot guns. She can kick butt. And I really like that about her. And that they kind of put her in there. And I think Han Solo is super charming. I think he's funny. I think, he's a great addition to the story as well. And like I said before, the graphics and things were cutting edge for their time. I love, what they kind of set up for just movies in general from that point forward. And I would say my favorite from the original trilogy is episode 6 or 3, depending on how you look at it.
Same. So Return of the Jedi?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because that's why I got the Ewok hat going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ewoks,
that's it.
Yeah, the Ewoks are they're fun characters. I love seeing them with their rocks and their spears, just like taking on, all of the stormtroopers, and that turning point where Darth Vader chooses, his family and finds that light in himself and like overthrows the Emperor literally, and brings balance to the Force. And I really love the ending. I love the happy ending. Like I said, I'm a sucker for that.
I love the ending. Some people don't. I do like the ghosts. I do like the party. I like the music. There's something about that music that's really fun. And the fact that they're in the tree houses, up in the trees, I think that's a fun ending. I will say, and I'll pose this question to you both. Does this series have the best lightsaber battle? So I'm picturing Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker in the dark.
In the
You only
desert.
see the lightsabers. To me, that is like, I don't want to say the penultimate lightsaber battle, but to me that is that's part of that reason why I like this trilogy, is because it just feels like the ultimate like use of the lightsabers. You see them in the dark, you're actually really seeing them, because in A New Hope I feel like the lightsabers were super skinny.
Yeah.
And for some reason they just feel powerful in that scene. And so so I'll pose to you guys, Jake, first, favorite sequel or favorite original trilogy movie, and then in the meantime think about what is the best lightsaber fight.
So, favorite original trilogy movie is tough. Um, I know a lot of people like Empire Strikes Back. For me, I like uh, the original, A New Hope. I like that, and I like Return of the Jedi. It's really tough for me to pick a favorite out of those two, because like you guys touched on a little bit, A New Hope is just like the classic story. Like it's just everything about it is so good. I feel like I'm just gonna sit here and say classic over and over again, but like that's that's just the way I think of it.
Yeah.
But I just really have a soft spot for Return of the Jedi. I really don't know what it is. You touched on the lightsaber battle a lot. I'm not crazy about the lightsaber battle in it. Like it's good. I love the imagery and stuff, like the dark and the light and everything. But one thing that really sets it apart for me is the space battle. I really like the big space battle at the end between the rebels and the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And barring the space battle in Rogue One, I would say it's my favorite in the series. So that's a big part of it for me.
Okay. Hannah, best lightsaber fight?
I think that you bring up some really great points with the light and the dark, and how you can just see the blades and stuff, and I think that that's really a really cool visual aspect. But I think when it comes to like the actual duel, my favorite is between Qui-Gon, Darth Maul, and Obi-Wan in The Phantom Menace, because I love seeing them leap from platform to platform, and when the red laser barriers come and they're like touching it with the lightsabers, and there's so much tension when Obi-Wan's trapped and he can't get to Qui-Gon. And I would say that's probably my favorite lightsaber duel, just like as far as like fighting and stuff. But I think the visuals of the duel in Return of the Jedi are phenomenal and are unmatched in regards to the other movies for that.
That's totally legit. Jake, do you concur?
I
Since
think
you're
for the
Phantom
most part,
Menace?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably something I should have brought up earlier when going on my rant defending it. But I do feel like the lightsaber battle at the end, I would say it's probably the best in the series. A big part of that is the music.
Yeah.
Like Duel of the Fates is an awesome soundtrack.
Mm.
I'm also going to bring up in The Force Awakens, Rey versus Kylo at the end. I really like that one for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know. Again, it's a big part of its imagery, kind of like the Return of the Jedi one. I really like the scene where I don't know, they kind of like lock lightsabers together, and Rey like pushes down the red one, and the blue one ends up pointing up to the sky. I just felt like a cool metaphor for like the light overcoming the dark.
Yeah.
And
what about oh no, go ahead, Jake.
Oh, I was just gonna say the start of the fight. It's kind of predictable when Rey like pulls the lightsaber over to her instead of to Kylo, but I still get goosebumps every time. Like it's like watching it. Every time I watch it, it's like the first time. So I really like that part too.
Can I interject real quick in regards to, if we're talking imagery, as much as we all kind of crapped on Attack of the Clones, I think that the battle between Darth Maul and Anakin, it's the Attack of the Clones battle, right? When they're in like the cave, and you can see like
Dooku.
Well, you mean
Dooku.
Dooku?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. No,
it's late. I've been working all day today. My brain's fried. Dooku has like, his face is red the whole time, but Anakin's face flashes red and blue from the different lightsabers as they're fighting, and you see like the reflected light on his face.
I don't know if I've noticed that.
Blue, and you can see that it's like the reflection of his inner struggle between good and evil, whereas Dooku's is red the whole time because he's evil the whole time, and Yoda is green the whole time because he's good the whole time, but Anakin's got that like back and forth, and I think that that's
Dang.
a cool visual.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I didn't realize that was the thing. So I'm definitely gonna have to, when I rewatch it, I'm definitely gonna look for that. Yeah, interesting. So what about? Well, okay, let's just segue into the sequels. I mean, we got to talk about them. Unfortunately, we can't talk about maybe my favorite movie, which is Rogue One. So that is, we'll get that in. We'll get into that another episode, another time.
Yeah.
But Rogue One is maybe my favorite. I'll leave it at that. So, but obviously that's not in the sequel. So the newest trilogy. Why do we think that the sequels are not our favorite trilogy? Neither of us, and neither Elizabeth nor Steven. So 5 of us. Particularly because we gave examples of the prequels being around and we saw them in theaters, or they're new to us, and now we have it again as adults. So why? What's that missing to make it our favorite trilogy?
I think one of the things that they tried to do was, they had like, they were supposed to have a different director for each movie initially, and then it was the same for 7 and 9 and different for 8. And I think that for me, that's one of the really hard things, because like J.J. Abrams very clearly had one vision, and then Rian Johnson comes in with a completely different vision.
I thought you were going to say no vision.
J.J. Abrams comes back with his, story again. And so they don't feel like they connect.
Yeah.
And for me, that makes it really hard to enjoy the series overall, because it's going one way and then it goes the other way, and then it's like back this way again. And it's just hard to follow at times, and it feels like they're trying to contradict each other. I mean, sometimes they quite literally do contradict each other. I mean, J.J. Abrams had a character say, "Holdo maneuvers are once in a lifetime. No one can ever do that again." So they very clearly kind of battle with each other, and it just feels really disjointed and makes it hard to enjoy overall.
Yeah, I agree. I would say for a couple of reasons. One, because episode 7 is, The Force Awakens is kind of like just a remake of A New Hope. And although I enjoy it, it doesn't feel like original. And this trilogy also houses my least favorite movie in all of them, The Last Jedi. So, and it probably has my least favorite scene of all time, and that's when Rey gives Luke the lightsaber and he chucks it over his shoulder. That felt like a sucker punch, and so I don't dislike this series. I do enjoy it, and I'm glad that they remade it. It definitely has its flaws. I don't mean to sound as negative on it as I do when I joke around, but to me it's my not only not my favorite trilogy, but it's my least favorite. Jake?
Yeah, I've got 2 things. I really like what both you guys said about it. I feel like you made some really good points that I would have brought up on my own. But the one thing is, not only did it feel inconsistent within itself as a trilogy, to me it feels really inconsistent with the other trilogies, like as an extension of the prequels and the original trilogy and stuff. Like I feel like they messed with a lot of the established rules in the Star Wars universe. Like we saw the Force work in ways that it never really had before, and that's not a bad thing. I've warmed up to some of that stuff, like over time. Everyone hates on Princess Leia, like doing the whole Mary Poppins thing. That doesn't bug me as much as it used to. But even beyond force powers, just like some of the stuff with the technology, like you mentioned the Holdo maneuver or whatever, like that just felt so, like, it was cool. It just felt so out of place. And a lot of the stuff they do with like hyperspace travel, like
the light speed jumping from 9.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. And in the Force Awakens, like Han can just basically do whatever he wants to. He's like, "Oh, we're going to light speed out of the hangar. We're going to light speed right up to the planet's surface." And then like in 9 with the whole light speed skipping thing, it's like they just pull out these weird things that like only the main characters can do. And just feel really out of place. So some stuff like that. And the other one I was going to say is the fleet on Exegol, where it's like we just have 10,000 Star Destroyers, and it's like, well, how did you pull that off? But
Yeah.
stuff that just doesn't feel in place. Like 10,000 Star Destroyers, and they all have a super laser like the Death Star, and it's like we're just getting way out of hand here.
Yeah.
Also,
and what used to be cool to have like 20, 30, destroyers in a scene. Now we have 10,000. It just felt like somebody hit copy paste too many times on the graphics.
Yeah. It's just not believable. Like I know
Yeah.
Star Wars is the most believable series, but like you reach a point where the universe has a sort of internal consistency, and I feel like the sequel trilogy just didn't agree with that.
And hopping along with the consistency of things, and this is something Jacob and I have talked about a little bit, is the humor of 7, 8, and 9 is much, well, not 9 so much, but especially 7 and 8 is really more of that like slapsticky, trying to make you like laugh out loud humor, with the like, oh, who's going to talk first? You're going to talk first? I'm going to talk first. Or like the, like yo mama jokes and that kind of stuff doesn't fit in with the humor of the rest of the series. So I feel like that also for me makes it feel like the sequel trilogy doesn't fit in with the other two because it doesn't feel like the same kind of movie. But then 9 for me redeemed some of that. They brought 3PO was a lot of the focus of the humor in that one, which I feel like kind of tied it back into those originals more. So that did redeem it some for me, but that was something I noticed.
Now, I will say one other thing, kind of in defense of them, I guess. This might not be the most satisfying answer or response, but I have a feeling that part of the reason I feel the way I do about them is like the time in my life when they came out, if that makes sense, or like the fact that I'm older watching them and not a kid. I have a sneaking suspicion that were I the same age for the sequel trilogy as I was for the prequel trilogy, that I would probably feel very similar about it, to the way I do about the prequels, at least.
I totally agree. I have the exact same issue sometimes watching like Fantastic Beasts in the Harry Potter series, where I'm like, well, if this came out 20 years ago, 15 years ago, I probably would love it more than I do, because I look at it with such a critical eye now, that I expect everything to be like at this like 100% A+ level all the time. Whereas if I was younger watching it, things would seem probably more cool.
Yeah, I really feel like a lot of the criticisms that everyone and me especially levels at the sequel trilogy can be applied almost equally to the prequel trilogy, which clearly is my favorite. So there's a bit of inconsistency there, but it's it is what it is.
That's a great point. And along the lines of giving the sequel trilogy some love, I really do like the lightsaber battle. Excuse me, with Kylo and Rey, but when they're fighting together, and Jake helped me out in the red room with all the red.
Oh yeah, like the royal guards and stuff.
Yeah, I really do like that scene, and I do like the using the lightsaber, like catching it and using it behind them. So I do like that scene quite a bit. So I think that does rank up there.
If we're going to talk about really good scenes from it, I just want to say, for all the crap Last Jedi gets from everyone and from me especially,